Atención juventud, en este momento iniciamos el programa Jóvenes del Fúturo.
Muchas veces, y yo mismo como hijo comprendo.
A través de Radio Transformación 90.3 FM, te invitamos a meditar en la palabra de Dios para prepararnos cada día más. Ya iniciamos Jóvenes del Futuro, con ustedes Gabriel, Ayden y Kritza.
Que más altos son sus pensamientos.
Camino de Belén, si me ven, voy camino de Belén, si me ven, voy camino de Belén. El lucerito mañanero ilumina mi sendero, el lucerito mañanero ilumina mi sendero. Si me ven, voy camino de Belén, si me ven, voy camino de Belén. Con mi cuatrico voy cantando, mi burrito va trotando. Con mi cuatrico voy cantando, mi burrito va trotando. Si me ven, voy camino de Belén.
I'm Ayden, and here I am with my brother and sister, Gabriel de Rosario and Kritza Contreras. Welcome to Youth of the Future, a program on Radio Transformation 90.3 FM. If you want to find us, 90.3 FM more, you can find us Monday through Sunday on your Facebook page if you're watching from us, or on your radio from 90.3 FM in Durham. If you want to find our church personally, our address is 1800 North Roxborough Street, Durham, NC, and you could find us on Tuesdays from 7:30 to 9 p.m. and Sundays from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And if you want to find us on virtual, you can find us at Ministerio Guerrero de Jesucristo. And welcome, and hopefully you had a last week of school for all the kids who are watching, and hopefully you have a nice Christmas.
Hola, muy buenas tardes, gracias por estar con nosotros un viernes más. Mi nombre es Kritza Contreras, como dijo mi hermano Ayden, este es mi hermano Gabriel de Rosario y Ayden. En nuestra página de Facebook, Radio Transformación Transformando Vidas para Cristo, o puede estar con nosotros cada viernes desde su radio, en su automóvil, de 7 de la noche a 8 de la noche en 90.3 FM. Y si tiene una pregunta o quiere pedir oración, puede llamar a nuestro pastor Julián de Rosario al 919-395-7539. Y vamos a empezar nuestro tema de hoy con mi hermano Gabriel, que va a hacer la oración de apertura.
And like my brother and my sister Kritza was saying, thank you for being here with us. I know that a lot of you guys are just starting your break, but before we begin our topic, we'd like to start with an opening prayer.
Como decía mi hermano Gabriel y hermano Ayden, sabemos que muchos de nuestros jóvenes ya terminaron con la escuela, estamos en vacaciones y esperamos de que tengan unas felices navidades y que nos portemos bien primeramente para que podamos agarrar algo el día de Navidad.
Father God,
Padre nuestro,
we thank you for the day that you have given us.
te damos gracias por el día que nos has dado.
We thank you for the opportunity of being here
Te damos gracias por la oportunidad de estar aquí
and being able to share your word with others.
y que sea posible nosotros dar tu palabra a otros.
Please bless everybody who is here and who is watching us,
Bendice a todos los que están aquí y los que están escuchando y viendo,
so that we may continue to do your will.
para que podamos continuar a hacer tu palabra.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.
En nombre del Padre, el Hijo y el Espíritu Santo. Amén.
So, as we were saying, today's topic is going to be about perseverance. Perseverance has the specific definition from the dictionary: persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. So, another word that we could use to replace that might be a little bit more memorable or recognizable is persistence or determination to get to somewhere. So, for example, you could give the determination or persistence of doing or getting an A+ on a test, right? Doing good in the test. One of the examples of showing perseverance or persistence or determination, putting in after school hours, listening a little bit more, taking study a little bit harder, putting time away for school specifically. So we could use that time. And today we're going to be kind kind of circling around the word perseverance and how perseverance kind of relates into our day-to-day lives of how we interact with Jesus Christ every day.
Nuestro tema de hoy se ha titulado Perseverancia y la definición desde el diccionario dice: perseverancia, firmeza y constancia en la manera de hacer o de obrar. Hoy, perseverancia, como dije hermano Ayden, es como ejemplo, perseveramos en este año, ya vamos a dar a otro año o este semestre de escuela. Hoy es determinación de terminar algo, es de no rendirse cuando empezamos un proyecto o cuando hay algo duro. Perseverancia es cuando estamos en un lugar oscuro y no tenemos dónde ir. Y como decía mi hermano Ayden, vamos a estar hablando de perseverancia en nuestro día a día. Y si puede ir con nosotros a Isaías 46, 3 a 4.
And like my brother Ayden and my sister Kritza were saying, our topic for today is going to be perseverance. And the reason why we chose this is because as youth, a lot of times we have the motivation to start something, but we often struggle with the determination part, like my brother Ayden was saying. We're very motivated into doing something and starting something new, but we struggle with actually going through with things and maintaining it for a long time. A good example is school. We're always excited for the first week or first 2 weeks or 3, but once we hit that 4th week and we see that work starts piling up, we often get stressed and we don't want to continue. So today we just want to bring a few verses to you guys that can help you maybe think about how you can persevere in your life.
Como jóvenes, tenemos mucho entusiasmo cuando empezamos algo, como decía mi hermano Gabriel. Por ejemplo, la primera semana de la escuela estamos muy emocionados de ver a nuestros amigos, conocer nueva gente, pero a veces después de 4 semanas, cuando el trabajo empieza a convertirse en mucho, no seguimos perseverando, como dice. Pero como yo lo veo, ya estamos a final de año, ya salimos de la escuela. Seguro que todos sacamos muy buenas notas en nuestros exámenes, en nuestras clases, porque perseveramos, y también lo hicimos en nuestra vida espiritual. Y nuevamente se puede ir con nosotros a Isaías 46, 3 a 4.
And if you could follow us to our first verse about talking about perseverance, you can follow us to Isaiah chapter 46, verse 3 and 4.
La palabra de Dios se lee así: Isaías 46, 3 a 4. Oídme, oh casa de Jacob, y todo el resto de la casa de Israel, los que sois traídos por mí desde el vientre, los que sois llevados desde la matriz, y hasta la vejez yo mismo, y hasta las canas os soportaré yo. Yo hice, yo llevaré, yo soportaré y guardaré.
Again, Isaiah chapter 46, verse 3 and 4. Listen to me, you descendants of Jacob, all the remnant people of Israel, you whom I have upheld since your birth and have carried since you were born. Even to your old age, gray hairs, even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he. I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you.
Cuando se ve de perseverancia, es un buen ejemplo en cómo el Señor Jesús es perseverante, usa perseverancia con nosotros, porque como dice en el verso 46, 4, dice: hasta la vejez yo mismo y hasta las canas os soportaré yo. Así que vemos muchas familias de que hay un padre, una madre, un abuelo, un bisabuelo, una bisabuela que está en sus mayores años, pero siempre está alabando a Dios, ha sido perseverante con su familia, con el Espíritu Santo, con todos esos años, todas esas cosas que ha pasado, todos esos retos, todo lo que ha hecho en la vida, y también la vida espiritual, porque no es nada fácil. Y como los tiempos cambian, como nosotros perseveramos en nuestra vida espiritual y cualquier cosa que hacemos, Él también lo hace con nosotros. Porque si no tuviera paciencia y determinación de que nosotros vamos a estar a su lado, nosotros no estuviéramos aquí si no fuera por Él.
As my sister Kritza was saying, one of the things that I like to talk about perseverance, I think of especially how we became on radio. usually my brother Gabriel talks about this, but of how we were all in quarantine, and after a little bit we started getting more into the Bible because we found it interesting. And more honestly, we had nothing else to do unless just look at a TikTok or YouTube or just something that we were doing every single day. So we decided to open up our minds a bit and start reading the Bible, something that we were encouraged to do by all our family members. And then I look at ourselves from when we started quarantine, and then when we look at ourselves now. We had 2 weeks ago, we had a curso, like a service, a youth service, and now we're all over here every Friday talking and spreading the word of God with all love and generosity to all of the youth out there and even adults out there, changing lives, hopefully. And one of the things, even during the pandemic, we were still able to get to such a high point. And it's one of the things that this verse reminds me of the determination we have to have. It says, even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you. So all of us, COVID has been something that's killed millions of people. And some of us have gotten it in this room, but yet we were still able to overcome it and still be able to come to this room today, right? Be able to accomplish another year, especially. And New Year's is like 2 weeks away. Spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, and this verse kind of reminds me of it, because even during the worst of times, God has sustained us, as it says in verse 4, to bring us to such a high point, even when people really didn't have the force to do anything.
Como decía mi hermano Ayden, un ejemplo puede ser que en estos 2 años atrás, con esto de la pandemia de COVID, que hemos perseverado mucho. Un ejemplo podría ser cuando empezamos este programa de radio, porque no teníamos nada que hacer, como decía mi hermano Gabriel y mi hermano Ayden, no teníamos nada que hacer. Entonces al principio como que no estábamos muy listos y nos costó mucho llegar hasta donde estamos, pero como decía este verso, hasta las canas viejas nos va a soportar. Tenemos que perseverar para poder ver esa promesa que Dios nos ha prometido. Y como decía mi hermano Ayden, muchas personas han muerto, han fallecido, o muchos aquí en este mismo lugar hemos tenido el virus, pero hemos perseverado en el nombre de Dios y nuestras familias están sanas. Y ya va a ser la marca de 2 años desde que empezó esto. Y hemos perseverado en todo esto. Todos estamos aquí presentes y los que no nos están viendo desde el cielo.
Like my brother and my sister Kritza are reading in that verse, it tells us that God will be with us even from our young years to our older years. And we can think of the verse as it talking about us physically growing, but we can also think of it as us spiritually growing. We can say that a lot of us, no matter your age, we may be young spiritually. We have many things to learn and we might be new to it. And us ourselves are new to it. We're like children when it comes to learning things about the Spirit and what God needs to teach us. And a lot of times we'll use that word, the first love. The first time you truly encounter God and you start getting interested in like Him and the Bible. And over a certain course of time, we start to lose that interest. Like we were saying in the beginning, that the big thing about perseverance is not only just starting something, but having the will to continue to do it over time. And God tells us that during that period, He will be there with us and support us. Because in Psalms, I think it tells us that when a man is old, he tends to fail God in his older years. But perseverance is, no matter what time you're at or what season of your life you're in, you're always going to try to persevere. Or even if it's after that time of your first love with God, you still continue to act like you have that first love and continue to serve Him like you served Him at first. Because that's our goal as Christians, is to not stay in just one place and not move forward. We're Christians. We want to always be changing constantly and moving towards better things. Because it tells us that if He's going to support us, why are we going to just sit there and do nothing? If He promises us that He's going to support us in our lives and like in our perseverance, then we should do our best to help push that forward, and we can persevere. And like my brother Ayden and my sister Kritza were saying, sort of like a radio program, we started off and it was difficult, but over time it became easier because we trusted and believed that with practice and with perseverance and determination, things can get done and you can get a lot better at them if you just believe and trust and know that there's support there for you.
Mi hermano Gabriel está hablando de cómo el verso de Isaías 46, 3 a 4 podría también significar que no creciendo solo físicamente, sino que espiritualmente, porque en estos tiempos nosotros seguimos siendo jóvenes en espíritu y en nuestra relación con Dios, pero la perseverancia está allí y no nos hemos dado por vencidos. Estamos ahí hablando de la palabra y Él va a estar siempre con nosotros en los tiempos de que no sabemos qué hacer. Y como dice hermano Gabriel, hay que ver, nosotros somos tan cambiantes, siempre estamos cambiando, porque no podemos empezar y solo quedarnos ahí, hay que moverlos adelante, así como hicieron las generaciones de nosotros, nuestros papás, abuelos, como hizo la generación, la casa de Jacob y la casa de Israel, y todos los israelitas y todos las personas que alaban al Señor, todo que hemos evolucionado, porque si empezamos a alabar a Dios como algo nuevo, no hay que solo estar en un lugar, sino que hay que moverse adelante, hay que cambiar, hay que evolucionar nuestra relación espiritual, y hay que perseverar para no darnos por vencido, porque cuando uno viene a esta vida, cuando uno elige estar al lado de Dios, va a ser muy difícil, muchas cosas van a venir, pero hay que perseverar y seguir adelante.
As my brother and sister Gabriel and Kritza were explaining, during the path of perseverance, there is going to always be something that's hard. But that's why in this verse, it does explain that God, even when we're young and even when we're in our old ages, He's always going to be with us no matter what and how hard it gets. But specifically talking about the topic of how sometimes it gets hard, Romans 5, chapter 3, Romans chapter 5, verse 3 to 5, does explain what perseverance and the struggles that we have during perseverance, what it brings out in us. So it says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has poured out into our hearts throughout the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us. So, as it says in this, it says specifically perseverance, character, and character, hope. These are three main things that perseverance, even during the struggles, it brings out in us. And again, just as the radio, we did have a lot of problems behind the scenes, like sometimes the computer would be glitching, little things that sometimes made it hard for us to keep on going. And sometimes we had school, sometimes we had too much work to do. And that's little stuff that even as youth, we could see that you're 15, I'm only 11, and he's 16, and yet we're still having so many obstacles. But yet we were able to get to a good point, and this verse kind of reminds us that throughout all that struggling, we were able to learn something more, that it brought out our perseverance, our character, and our hope to be closer to God and to spread the word of God. It showed our love for it, and it showed our enthusiasm about it. And it's kind of shows for everybody who thinks that, yeah, this is not going to end out well, that even when those hard times are tough, don't worry, it's going to bring out some more stuff.
Como decía el hermano Ayden, en Romanos 5, 3 al 5 dice, y no solo esto, sino que también nos gloriamos en las tribulaciones, sabiendo que la tribulación produce paciencia, y la paciencia prueba, y la prueba esperanza, y la esperanza no vergüenza, porque el amor de Dios ha sido derramado en nuestros corazones por el Espíritu Santo que nos fue dado. Mi hermano Ayden estaba hablando de que habla de la paciencia, la prueba y la esperanza. Esperanza también puede ser interpretado como perseverancia, porque uno es perseverante y tiene esperanza de que algo va a cambiar. Pero la esperanza también, como que, en mi opinión, trabaja mano a mano con la perseverancia, porque si esperamos algo en nuestros corazones, tenemos que esperar y ser determinados y pacientes, porque siempre va a estar una prueba que va a estar presente. Y dice el 5, y la esperanza no avergüenza, la perseverancia no avergüenza. No importa qué tantas pruebas pasamos, qué tantos años pasan, qué tantas cosas pasan, qué tantas personas se van y vienen de nuestras vidas, porque no hay vergüenza, no hay motivo de ser avergonzado, porque el amor de Dios ha sido derramado en nuestros corazones por el Espíritu Santo que nos fue dado. El Espíritu Santo nos fue dado. Jesús dio su vida por nosotros y nosotros tenemos que perseverar y dar esperanza de, no importa que tantas pruebas haya. Hay que van a mano en mano si queremos seguir adelante y no estar solo en un lugar y no evolucionar en este sentimiento espiritual y también personal.
Bouncing off what my brother and my sister Kritza were saying, I'd like to go into another verse, which is James 1:12. And it says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." So in this verse, it's telling us something similar to what my brother Ayden and my sister Kritza were saying, that often because of perseverance and because we're doing good things, we're going to receive some sort of resistance. And that's the big thing with perseverance. If we didn't receive any resistance in our life, things would go smoothly exactly how we thought they would, and we wouldn't have any problems. And sure, that seems great, but then that wouldn't bring much meaning to life because we never have to struggle and work harder. But because of things that have happened over the course of humanity, we have to work harder every day. And we have struggles in our lives, but that eventually makes us stronger. And that's what it's telling us here in James 1:12, that because you persevere, stronger things are going to come, and you're only going to have to get stronger, or else you'll crumble under it. And the Bible tells us that Jesus did his part in granting us the opportunity of salvation. He shed his blood, and it's now within us. But now we can't just sit there and do nothing. We have to take action ourselves and persevere. If we have been given an opportunity, we have to obviously take it, and that's what it tells us in this verse. That person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. And a great example of a person who has persevered in the Bible is the Apostle Peter. After Jesus went up and resurrected, a lot of the apostles just ran away simply in fear. But the Apostle Peter continued to spread the word throughout many parts of Europe, such as the main area of Rome, and even to areas such as Spain. And because of that, the word has been spread to all across the world. But it wasn't just Peter himself, but it was the perseverance that he was given. He continued even after he saw that things got difficult. And that's what we want to bring. That's the message we want to bring today, that we're not saying things are going to be easy in life, but when they do get difficult, you have to persevere. Because at the end of the day, if it's something that's difficult, you beating it just makes you stronger than that. And over the course of many years, you're going to get better and better. We can look at Moses. He had to struggle with a whole people for 40 years in the desert. And one of the biggest mistakes he made is that when he was older, he failed and he broke the tablets of the Ten Commandments, and that eventually led him to not receiving that promised land. So the Bible gives us that example because it doesn't want us to repeat history. It wants us to become better than those who have been here before us. So through these verses, if you really persevere, like it says, you can receive that crown of life. And like in the verses we read before, that perseverance will produce a lot of good things. It's not just that you'll achieve that one thing. If you focus on one area, you can have fruits in other areas. Like it says, I think in your verse, it says something about it produces patience and something like that, which are things that we all need, but it all starts off with getting into something and persevering through it.
Siguiendo de Romanos 5, en Santiago 1:12 dice, bienaventurado el varón que soporta la tentación, porque cuando haya resistido la prueba, recibirá la corona de vida que Dios ha prometido a los que le aman. Como decía mi hermano Gabriel, perseverancia puede ser muchas cosas. No solo porque perseveras en un lugar no significa de que solo va a ser esta cosa, sino que si lo hacemos bien, de que si somos determinados y hay esperanza en nuestros corazones, podemos enfocarnos en una, pero también puede dar frutos en otra. Hay un ejemplo que dio mi hermano Gabriel a Moisés, que él estuvo 40 años con su pueblo en el desierto y tuvo perseverancia, tuvo paciencia y tuvo esperanza, pero como decía en Isaías, aunque llegó a edad vieja, edad de las canas, dice, él, como decía mi hermano Gabriel, él falló porque él tiró las tablas al suelo y no pudo ver la promesa que había dicho el Señor, sino que tuvo tomó mucho tiempo más, porque falló él porque tenía mucha edad, vieja edad, y nuevas generaciones como nosotros fue cuando se cumplió la palabra de Dios. Pero él perseveró en esos 40 años. Él hizo todo lo posible para que su pueblo estuviera salvo.
As my brother and sister Gabriel and Kritza were explaining, in James chapter 1 verse 12 it says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." As my brother and sister Gabriel and Kritza were explaining, perseverance always comes with a sense of hardness and struggle, and if there wasn't any hardness and struggle, there would be no lesson to learn, and everything would just go smoothly, and there's no point of it. It's just like think of it as a game. If there's nothing to do and you just keep on gaining levels, there's no point of the game. And it's almost the same thing in this part. Perseverance is God is trying to teach us a lesson, that even when times get tough, he's always going to be there with us. But if everything just goes smoothly and there's no struggle to be made, there's nothing for him to prove that he's always with us, because he doesn't have to be there for us. And that's what's the main definition of perseverance. And another example of perseverance is Jesus Christ, when he died on the cross for us. Imagine the struggle he had to go through from experiencing the flesh pain, like we would have, the flesh pain of getting nails into his hand, getting killed by other people who hated him, after he did so many nice things for all of the world. Imagine how much struggle he would have had to go through that, and that's a sign of his perseverance, of how much he loved us. That's how he showed his perseverance and his determination of how much he loved us and how much he wanted us, that in the future we wouldn't have to burn animals, or we wouldn't have to go to such extreme ends just to say, I'm sorry for doing this. We could do it in the comfort of our own homes, and saying it with meaning, of course, but just not have to do such extreme things as we did before he was crucified. But Jesus Christ, Moses, all these people in the Bible, they went through perseverance, and again, what they went through was struggles. But when they went through those struggles, that ended it. And as my brother Gabriel was saying, when God made this Bible and he put all these stories, he doesn't want us to make the same mistake. As our parents sometimes tells us, we don't want you to make the same mistake that we did. We want you to be better. And that's the same message that God has for us. He wants us to be better in the future, because if he didn't, there would be, again, no lesson to tell, because we already did it back in the past. And another great topic that Gabriel brought up was about the struggle. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. There's a song that says that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it's true. Because, again, it teaches us both life lessons, and it teaches us also, most importantly, that God is with us no matter what. Again, we could go through the pandemic. All the people who are watching this, and still the 7.7 to 8 billion people on this earth, probably half have gotten about COVID or something, and they probably went through it bad, but yet they're still able to be walking. They're still be able to wake up and see the sun of the light of day. You know what I mean? And it shows that even during the worst of times, and even during all the perseverance, God is still with us no matter what. And it's one of the examples of how perseverance is really a life-changing thing that we should all try to at least learn about.
Siguiendo lo que decía mi hermano Ayden, él da un ejemplo de perseverancia en la Biblia, que es el Cristo Jesús, él mismo, cuando él fue crucificado en la cruz por nosotros, y no tuviéramos de que matar animales para pedirle perdón o darle ofrendas a él, sino que, como decía él, lo podemos hacer en lo secreto, en nuestro cuarto, cuando estamos solos, cuando estamos en la iglesia, podemos orar para él y pedirle perdón. Y un ejemplo de eso está en Lamentaciones 3, 22 a 24, y dice: por la misericordia de Jehová no hemos sido consumidos, porque nunca decayeron sus misericordias. Nuevas son cada mañana, grande es tu fidelidad. Mi porción es Jehová, dijo mi alma, por tanto en él esperé. Como dice el 24, mi porción es Jehová, dijo mi alma, por tanto en él esperé. En él esperamos, porque él nos dio la salvación. Él es nuestra porción, somos hechos a su imagen. Dice, nuevas son cada mañana, grande es tu fidelidad. Nuestra fidelidad en Él, nuestra perseverancia, nuestra esperanza, nuestra manera de alabarle a Él, de pedirle perdón, no solo cuando miramos que las cosas están cayendo porque no le pedimos perdón en el primer lugar, sino que hay que pedirle perdón cada día. Hay que darle gracias por nuestra vida y hay que pedirle perdón por cosas que hacemos, cosas que pensamos, aunque no hemos hecho nada malo. Siempre hay que pedirle perdón, porque por la misericordia de Jehová no hemos sido consumidos, porque nunca decayeron sus misericordias. Él ha sido perseverante con nosotros, Él ha sido paciente con nosotros. Y por su misericordia no hemos sido consumidos por fuego o por agua, porque Él hizo, después de que vino el diluvio, Él hizo una promesa de nunca mandar esas aguas, sino que va a ser fuego esta vez. No nos hemos consumido, como dice en la Biblia. Y nuestra porción es Jehová, dice nuestra alma. Por lo tanto, hay que esperar en Él, hay que perseverar, hay que ser pacientes, hay que tener determinación para poder trabajar en lo que necesita trabajo y en lo que no necesita trabajo también. Porque ¿cómo vamos a saber que Él está con nosotros, como decía el hermano Ayden, si no ponemos de nuestra parte?
So again, as my sister Kritza was reading in Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 to 24, it says, "Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore I will wait for him." It says in verse 22, "Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never failed." So it says, again, it says in the verse itself that just because of the Lord's great love, we're never going to be we're never going to be over attacked, because his love never fails. And again, it shows that perseverance is something that's always going to be hard. Like God always says, it's hard, but it's never impossible. There's going to be some struggles in it, but even though we're never going to be consumed, as it says, because as it says, for his compassions it's never going to fail. It's Jesus Christ we're talking about. It says in the verse that God is love. God is practically made out of love. So we could say that because of his love, even though the struggles that we go through during our path of perseverance, we could say it like that, there's nothing that's going to be too powerful for us, because God's love is infinite power. Nothing is infinite power except God's love. And that's one thing that is something that's beautiful that we should always try to learn about as much as we can. In Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 to 24, it's something that you could just go in the Bible and actually check to kind of remind yourself that even the worst of times, God is always going to be there with you with his weapons of love.
And like my brother Ayden and my sister Kritza were saying, in the book of Lamentations, it tells us these things, that God is always with us. But something that I also want to bring up before we wrap this session up is that perseverance is not something that's going to work immediately. And I think that often throws us off, not only as youth, but as adults, that we think just because we push hard for a little bit, it's going to fix itself, or that it's immediately going to start working. And the thing about perseverance is that you got to keep trying no matter how long it takes, because like I said, it's not going to be immediate. Think about how many times, the greatest thinkers in the world have tried to create certain things, like Thomas Edison. Although he was not the original inventor of the light bulb, he did go through many trials in order to create one that was fully functioning, that could actually be used. And no matter how many times it took him, he still persevered. And we can look throughout all of history, the greatest inventors, one thing they all had in common is that they never worried about how many times do I have to do it, but when can I accomplish it? And they kept that focus. And I think that, even though maybe some of those great inventors aren't Christian, they still hold values that we should look at and admire, and that we should be doing as Christians, persevering. We know that as Christians, we're often attacked by the enemy, and we face many trials. And something we have to know is that it's never going to be easy, and the change is not going to happen immediately, because you don't change overnight. You change over periods of time, and that can be 1%, but 1% times 100 is 100%. And over the years of your life, you can make a lot of big changes that can influence you greatly. If I look back myself compared to myself 2 years ago, there's been a great change. But even though I don't realize it in that moment, there's still changes going on every single day that add up to something bigger. And so that's the thing I think we all need to realize about perseverance, that it's never going to change something completely overnight, but it's going to take time over and over. And a good example I guess I could give to you is if you've ever worked out, you know that you don't just gain muscle from one day of working on the gym. No matter if you worked out 10 hours that one day or whatever, it's going to take you months, years, time, dedication, things that imagine if growing physically takes that much, imagine how much growing spiritually takes. It's going to take a lot more. It's going to take much more perseverance. You have to keep that in your mind that you have to train yourself to think it's not immediate. It's going to take time. But like these verses have all told us, and there's a common theme if you guys have noticed, God tells us, and like he tells us many things, there's a promise. And there's a promise that he will always be there with us in that moment and support us. Like everything in the Bible, we just have to do our part because Jesus has already done his part in our lives. And if we persevere, we can help ourselves reach the goal of salvation.
Como decía mi hermano Gabriel, que muchas veces nosotros confundimos perseverancia de que va a pasar de día a noche, sino que eso no funciona así. Es como el cambio, como decía un ejemplo, que es como si queremos ponernos a dieta, queremos ir al gym, pero nunca funciona. La primera vez que vamos al gym le duele todo a uno el siguiente día y ya no queremos ir, pero no hay esa determinación de ir todos los días o cada fin de semana, porque es difícil. Pero así como es difícil hacer cosas físicas, va a ser difícil hacer las cosas espirituales con el Señor Jesús. Y siguiendo lo que decía mi hermano Gabriel y mi hermano Ayden, todos estos versos que le hemos dado de Isaías 46, a Lamentaciones 3, a Romanos 5, a Santiago 1:12, es que hay una promesa que Él siempre va a estar ahí con nosotros, pero hay que ser que la perseverancia toma tiempo, toma paciencia y determinación, porque si, como dije antes, esperanza, determinación, paciencia y perseverancia van mano a mano juntos, porque así que como es duro cambiar un hábito de estudio, un hábito de ver mucha televisión, de estar en nuestro teléfono, de no leer la Biblia, toma mucho tiempo, toma perseverancia, porque no va a cambiar de día en la mañana. Es lo que decimos, mañana me voy a levantar temprano, toda la semana, pero no lo hacemos porque es muy temprano, queremos dormir. Pero hay que ser pacientes y hacer práctica, porque sin práctica no va a haber frutos, y sin frutos no va a haber esperanza, y no vamos a estar nosotros, porque si su misericordia no estamos nosotros.
So as my brother and sister Kritza and Gabriel were explaining, to wrap this up, again, perseverance is something that does not happen in just one day and one day of trial and hard work. It happens, you have to take a lot of time and determination out of your life to really actually go to the path of perseverance. For example, World War II. September 1st, 1939, all the way to September 2nd, 1945. So that's 6 years in one day. So 6 years for a war that made a great difference in our world. It took so much perseverance from the people who fought for us. It's a great example of how, for another example, Thomas Edison, as my brother Gabriel was explaining, even though he wasn't the original creator of the light bulb, he still went through a lot of trial to make another one, so we wouldn't look at us right now. But again, perseverance is something that you should be really grateful for, because it teaches us all the life lessons that are really a necessity to the life that we live right now. And perseverance is, again, not something that it's something that we sometimes mistake for something that we're just going to get it right away. But it's just like money. It requires hard determination and hard work to actually get what you want to succeed. So to end this off, if you want to see us again from Monday through Sunday, you can find us on Facebook, Radio Transformation 90.3 FM, or you can find us on your car radio, your home radio, or tune in at 90.3 FM. If you want to see us, you can see us, our church at 1800 North Roxborough Street, Durham, NC. If you want to find us online, you can find us at Ministerio Guerrero de Jesucristo. And our 2 days that you can come to our church or see us on Facebook is Tuesday from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Or you could find us on Sundays from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And if you want to call our pastor, who is Julian de Rosario, you could call him at 919-395-7539. Also, just a little heads up, there is there's a university in this church. One Saturday yes, one Saturday no. So tomorrow we're gonna have university. If you do want to come to the university, you could call our pastor again at 919-395-7539, or you could ask our pastor for Ayden de Rosario's number, and she could tell you a little bit more about our university, so you could go there. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and spend some time with your family for a little bit. Get off your phone for a little bit.
Nuevamente, esperamos de que este tema se haga a sus corazones y que puedan compartir con alguien que usted crea que lo necesita. Y nuevamente, perseverancia es firmeza y constancia en la manera de ser o obrar. Y hay que tomar en cuenta y hay que recordar que es perseverancia y cambios no pasan de la noche a la mañana, sino que hay que ser firmes en lo que va a cambiar y va a cambiar, porque nosotros podemos hacerlo. Hay que ser perseverantes. Y nuevamente, si tiene una pregunta, quiere hablar con nuestro pastor Julián de Rosario, que le pidió oración, puede llamar a 919-395-7539. Y si quiere ver nuestros programas anteriores, puede ir a nuestro radio Transformación, transformando vidas para Cristo, o puede vernos, escucharnos en nuestra página de Facebook, en su automóvil o en su casa, en Radio Transformación 90.3 FM de 7 de la noche a 8 de la noche. O puede estar con nosotros los domingos de 1 de la tarde a 3 de la tarde en 1800 North Roxborough Street, Durham, Carolina del Norte. Y mañana, como decía el hermano Ayden, hay clases de universidad en nuestra iglesia. Y si quiere llamar a nuestro pastor para saber más, nuevamente 919-395-7539, para que él le dé el número de teléfono a nuestra hermana de Rosario, para que ella le pueda dar más información si usted está interesado en venir a recibir clases. Y esperamos de que tenga buena noche, un fin de semana, felices fiestas y feliz año nuevo.
Jóvenes del Futuro, con el consejo que Dios tiene para nosotros. No te pierdas nuestro próximo programa y pasa la voz. Jóvenes del Futuro regresará muy pronto.